Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey David, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Bruce. I'm
Never in
doing
doubt.
good. Not really.
I
I
knew
never had
they'd
the
win another
feeling.
game eventually. Like that was never in
Yeah,
doubt. Just
I
didn't
never
know
had the
when.
feeling to me that that one was actually much in doubt. Although it was, I mean, they could have easily tied it. But the Oilers had a strong
Oh,
game, Bruce. They won
mostly.
3-1 over the Carolina Hurricanes. There was a few iffy moments, that's for sure, which we will get to. The grade A
Oh,
shots were 18-12 for the Oilers, and which reverses a recent trend. And the 5 alarm shots were 7-6 for the Canes. So a little bit of an edge there. But overall, the Oilers did have the edge in play. Bruce, two good things, two bad things, and two numbers. What is your good thing tonight?
yeah, I've got to go with the netminder, old goalie here. Netminder. I mean, you could say he didn't steal the win,
No,
in
he
the
didn't.
sense that Edmonton had the the more of the really good chances and the higher number of expected goals. But this just in, both goalies played great. And Freddie Anderson, Oiler killer, easily could have stole that win for Carolina. If you got an average game in the nets from Edmonton, Carolina wins that game. Natural stat trick had the expected goals at 5.1 for Edmonton and 3.8 for Carolina. So both goalies were basically three better than might be expected based on the quality of shots as enumerated by a bot, right? But
Yeah, ours was more like 4-3, I guess. Eh?
yeah, but still, if Pickard plays average, they lose that game 3-2. They didn't. They won it because Pickard was so good. He had a 972 save percentage after facing 36 shots officially. I think in the end, that's what my event summary says. One goal on 36 shots. Not yeah, and 972 save percentage, and a number of splendid saves. A number of really good saves. Carolina, boy, they can really bring it, eh? They did the same thing in Edmonton. They were down 2-0 going into the third, and they just wouldn't quit. They were just all over the pucks the whole third period, and they jammed a couple in and won it in overtime. And tonight they jammed one in and never could get that second one. And Pickard was a big part of the reason for that. He made some key stops, not always conventional. He is not a conventional goaltender. He is a more of an acrobatic, puck stopper than a blocker, like the big guys that just try and block as much net as possible and don't necessarily move around all that much. Pickard's not that guy. He's exciting.
He's an
Yeah,
80s goalie, right? Like he would have
yeah,
fit right in the 80s. Like there's
yeah,
all
yeah,
kinds of goalies he
yeah.
would have looked just like him. He would have been an
Uh-huh.
all-star in the 80s. And the one goal that got in,
Yeah.
Bruce, was
Or
not much
Murray
of a chance.
Vanderman.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, what pass and shot. Great shot by Aho from a super low angle and
Yeah.
no
Not much
waste of
chance.
time.
Henrique and
Yeah.
Emberson needed to cut that pass out and they didn't do it. And there's not much the
Well,
goalie could do.
they needed to win a puck battle and ice it down about 30 seconds later so that they weren't dying on their feet out there because they were out, I think, for the whole power play. And the power play went from,
90
yeah, it was
seconds, I
just,
think.
it was, yeah, from 2:59 to 4:26, 87 seconds. And I'm pretty sure it was the same guys that just could never get off because they could never get it out of their end. And
Yeah.
Carolina was, they were using the extra man and they were winning the puck battles. And Edmonton, when they did get a chance, they couldn't ever seem to get enough mustard on the darn puck to get it over the blue line. And that time it cost them. There was other times in the game it could have cost them. And one of the main reasons it didn't was Cal Pickard, the last line of defense, delivered the goods, and they really needed a fine game of goaltending tonight, and they got one.
Yeah, he was good, and I would elevate that to great based on a play that happened in the last minute that we're going to get to. Um, he they
Yeah.
the Canes were pretty. pedestrian in the first couple periods. And they've looked way more dangerous in the past to me than they've looked tonight, honestly. Like they didn't
Till the
have their
third.
A game. And in the battle of the goalies, the Oilers had the best goalie. And if that happens, man, the Oilers win what 90% of those games seems like. And Anderson's like the first goal that went in was just a terrible rebound from Anderson right to
Yes.
Henrique. So I mean, it's a tough play in some ways, but it goes in off Henrique, and Pickard didn't have that. He was really good. So Bruce,
Anderson had a few emergency saves behind him.
mm-hmm.
Oh, Goss's spare. One save
Oh,
right off the
well, we'll get to that
almost the
later
whole
too.
puck was over the goal line. Anyway,
Yeah,
there was a few of those pileups and a couple at our end too, where big pileup and the puck is loose, the whistle's not going. There's like 8 guys down on their knees jamming away at it, and finally, puck somehow goes out to the side and not in the net.
hard fought victory for the Oilers. Like, what a
Yes.
relief for them to come home with a victory, because
Yes.
it was getting
It's
brutal
huge.
here.
It's huge.
It was getting ugly in Edmonton. I was going to do a
Oh.
post I was going to do a post on fan reaction after the 5th loss, and it was just so unbelievably negative. And sometimes when it's like that, I try to
No reason
look
to
for the
pile
bright
on.
side, but I didn't, but I just didn't want to pile on. There was no need. Everyone in every Oiler fan was down, so it just seemed like it was just too depressing to even write about it. So
Throw another log on the fire. David, before we move to your good thing, a quick conundrum, which I was going to suggest, but you got a different one. Who do you start in that next game? The
who do
Oilers.
they play, Bruce?
They play at Anaheim at home next game, game 61.
It's before the deadline. It's just like
Well, they
I
got
think you
2
need.
games before the deadline.
I think you still need a little more information on Skinner. Like, give him another game. I don't know. It's a conundrum. Like, I still am hoping they get a goalie. I don't think that's the direction they're headed from all accounts. But although there was rumors today about Jonathan Quick,
Well,
so who knows how serious that is. Bruce,
Oilers have started to say Skinner 2 out of every 3 games and Pickard 1 out of every 3 games for every 3 game set from 1 to 60. And not once, his team's got 40 starts and Pickard 20, and not once has Pickard started 2 games in a row. But my bet is he's going to get the next one. And
you think
break
Pickard will play?
Break that next game. Yeah, and then Skinner got the one after.
Well, it would send a message to Skinner, which is not a bad idea, right?
No.
Like, why not? It's not like,
no.
I mean, he's
If
been
the other
in a
guy's
terrible
better
slump.
than you, then you better up your game, bud. So.
Huh. I thought I heard. Did someone say on the broadcast tonight that Corey Perry has 17 goals? He does not have 17. 13. Okay, I thought 17. That's really good. 13's really good too.
13's pretty good.
He is my good thing, Corey Perry, the guy that I was unhappy that they signed this summer, has proven me wrong. He's been a really useful player for the Oilers. And they started out the game with Arvidsson and Skinner on Draisaitl's line, and man, Jeff Skinner had a rough night. He lost a couple battles on the boards that led directly to dangerous shots for the other team. Anyway, the coach had enough by the end of the first period, and he put Draisaitl back with Podkolzin and Perry for the first shift. And Podkolzin roars right in there, 4 checks. Puck goes off his stick, then his skate, and it goes out to Perry, who puts it on net, and then Draisaitl puts it on net. 2 grade A shots just in the first shift for that line. Perry gets another one. In my notes in the game grades, it's a 5-alarm shot off a Kulak rebound, and I can't really remember the play, but I do remember the next play. His third grade A shot of the period, third time lucky, and he scores on it. And it was a really great play by Kulak. He roars in and he gets a hard shot from an angle, and the puck goes behind the net. They're advancing the puck, and he comes and they pass the puck and he picks it off, pass attempt. He puts it over to Leon Draisaitl, who makes just another MVP move, another MVP pass, a backhand pass, right onto Corey Perry, who is where he should be, right at the net. And he scores. Just a massive goal for the Oilers to make it 2-0. They had been outplaying Carolina significantly up to that point of the game. They needed to be up 2-0 going into
Yeah,
the third period, and
and they
they
had to
were.
be.
They were. Leon Draisaitl could easily have been a good thing in this game as well. He led the team in contributions to grade A, major contributions to grade A shots with 8 of them,
Again.
and he got 2 assists. Bruce, according to our metrics, um, his two-way play this year
Mm-hmm.
is the best two-way play we've ever seen from a center on the Edmonton Oilers
Oh,
in a
really?
regular
Any center?
season, and a
Oh,
center, including Connor
he,
McDavid. This is the best in terms of offensive production, weight against mistakes on defense. This is the best that an Oilers center so far has ever played, and since we've been tracking this, so he really is just crushing it this year.
made a big defensive play coming back on what looked like a 3-on-1 tonight and broke up a drop pass to the trailer, and Leon hustled back and took that away. I thought he was in beast mode right from the first shift. He powered through a D-man at the blue line and drew a penalty. And uh, he was, just winning physical battles, and a lot of them for the puck, around the puck. And he was pissy Leon, and that's mostly good Leon. My experience when he brings that edge to his game, and he really wants it. And he was, Dave, to me, he was Edmonton's best player in all 5 games of this road trip. Leon Draisaitl, like each night. He wasn't just the
Night
best player for the trip, but every game of the trip, he was basically the best that they had. And he was bringing it. 4 games in a row, he scored, and they still lost. And he was getting real tired of it. You could tell after the end of the last game, he was slamming the gate and barking at, I think, the referee, and just not a happy camper. And tonight he came out with that same edge, and it was, just a matter of time they were going to win one of these darn games, and he was a big factor again.
90 points in 60 games for Leon
Wow,
Draisaitl.
nice.
Yeah, that's pretty
Nice
good.
round numbers. 1.5 points per game is high elite.
Bruce, what's your bad thing?
Yeah, well, Leon's partner in crime, Connor McDavid, who had large portions of a very good game. I thought he was on top of his skill set tonight, more than I've seen in a while. More better skating, more better puck handling, uh, more pretty good moving it into the danger spot, but no finish. Man, he's having so much trouble getting any points or goals. He had a chance to score an empty net tonight, couldn't get that through. And then with Edmonton leading 2-1 and a minute and a half to go, Carolina took their second penalty of the game. Oilers had 4 for goaltender interference, I guess they called it. Yeah.
Yeah, Rantanen
Yeah.
cross-checked Kulak into the
Kulak
goalie.
into the goalie. Yeah.
It was a definite
And
penalty.
so they got a power play, and a power play with the goal, with a 1-goal lead is no guarantee, because if the other team gets into the neutral zone, they pull their goal in. It's 5-on-5, and they're trying to score. And anyway, so Edmonton did have the puck, and they mostly controlled it in Carolina's zone for 30 or 40 seconds. But then McDavid takes it and he dangles it out to the top of the blue line, and then he tries to sift a pass through some Carolina guy who's up at the very top of the slot, hits the guy's skate, bounces out into the neutral zone, breakaway, shorthanded breakaway against, with a 1-goal lead in the 60th minute of regulation. And you're wondering, what the hell kind of puck management and game management is that from any player? I don't care who it is. Joe Schmo makes that play. Joe Schmo gets my bad thing. This wasn't Joe Schmo. And it's frankly disturbing that there's so many so much weird stuff happening around that guy. And a play like that, don't be forcing that puck into places that aren't there. And stick handling at the top, keep it around the perimeter. Don't go take it into the middle of the ice and then cough it up. I mean, holy moly. Anyway, Pickard, fantastic save. Trying to remember who it was who had the breakaway. I was sure he was going to
Aho.
score. It was Aho. Wow, I was sure he was going to score, and I was sure I was going to blow the roof off of my living room with a big loud swear word, which was just loading up in the cannon.
Did you have a clipboard in your hands at the moment, Bruce?
I did not. Yeah, I only have the clipboards when I'm grading,
Okay.
so that they're they're in a different night. The clipboard would have been in jeopardy for sure. But anyway, Pickard bailed out his captain and teammate, and Canadian hero. I mean, all these things. But right now, at least at the NHL level, McDavid is having all kinds of struggles, and his statistics are just insane for him in terms of insanely low. And anyway, this was, in isolation. This isn't, 10 games worth of stats or months worth of stats. This is one moment of one game, and it's sort of, what are you doing with expletives? Anyway, they lived to tell about it, and that would have been a real horrendous way to blow that lead, man. Can you
Oh God,
imagine?
it would have just been horrible, Bruce, if they had lost that game because of that play.
Yeah.
He did have one really nice sequence. Well, he had a couple.
And a
One in
few.
the third period, he took the puck end to end, and in the second period, he took the puck end to end, and he went
Mhm.
through none other than the immortal Jacob Slavin. And I think Jacob Slavin's a really good player, but I do Chris Pronger, like some of the I can't remember who it was just raving. You think it might have been Saravalli raving about Slavin as the best defenseman in the NHL. And Chris Pronger, this was during the World Cup or the Four Nations,
Mhm.
and Chris Pronger came back at him. He said, "Yeah, he's a good defender, but what else does he do?" And and it's a good point. He's not
Well,
the best. He's not the best
it's
defenseman.
not
He's not
Chris
Cale
Pronger
Makar.
scoring 55 points, right?
Well,
And
he's
playing
he
that kind of defense.
no, that's right. And he's not Cale Makar, and he's not Quinn Hughes, and he's not. There's lots of players. I like Jacob Slavin mighty fine, but I did relish, given all the hype and hyperbole, I think around Jacob Slavin, I did relish McDavid just deking him out of his jock strap off the rush there. That was
Be nice to see
kind
him
of.
put it in, though, wouldn't it?
It would have been that would have been a great highlight
Yeah,
reel goal. But I guess McDavid got whatever revenge he needed against the Americans already, Bruce. I
that's
shall
true.
say. I
That's
shall.
true. Well, I would trade that whole over February kind of thing that he had for that one moment on that overtime gold medal game or championship
Easily,
game, whatever they call it. Yeah,
easily.
I'll trade all of this ugliness of February for that moment rather than anything you offer that has that moment going the other way.
Well, that's why I've been kind of muted myself on
So
the McDavid criticism because I think he was sick heading into the tournament, and I think he's been just his head's been spinning.
mhm.
He's starting to come back to earth and get his skates on the ice and deke the hell out of Jacob Slavin. So I, but that play in the last minute was almost comically awful. So we'll leave it at that. Bruce, my
Yeah,
bad thing is the Oilers are up 2-1, and they need this win. They need and they
absolutely.
deserve this win. They've been outplaying Carolina all game, and then up halfway through the period, they score two goals. It looks like they scored two on two different occasions. It looks like they've scored goals, and neither of them counted. And I don't know. Haven't looked online, but I think the refs got it right on both of the plays. I mean, I don't necessarily like the ruling, and I've seen more stronger kicking motions be counted as goals than Zach Hyman's goal called back.
Mhm.
But he did make a forward kicking motion with his foot. And,
Mhm.
again, I've seen two or three times where that's counted as a goal.
Mhm.
It wasn't tonight, but if that's the rule, if there's a forward kicking motion, it was perceptible. I did see it with my own eyes, and I don't think that goal should have counted.
Yeah, I got to look at the NHL officiating manual, and on the spread that's about disallowed goals, there's a great big picture of Zach Hyman. It's got a red circle around it and a diagonal line through it.
And it says F this guy. All
In
right.
particular.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
And
good.
the other one with Gostisbehere, right?
Oh yeah, the other one. So next one, Kapanen wins the puck to Brown, and Brown kind of wills it to the net, and it's a flub shot, but it goes in off his arm, I think, and goes under the goalie, is heading into the net, and it crosses the goal line.
99% of the goal line.
99.9%. And it's like the goal line is not, it's not like it's a straight, it's not like, it's funny when they have
Oh, it's
the
not
close up,
bright. It's not a bright line between
when they
where it
have the close
stops
up
and the
of the
white
goal
light
line.
starts. Yeah.
Yeah, it is just this mass of raggedness. And it looked
Hmm.
like one of the jagged edges of the goal line was still under the puck. So, and the rule is
Hmm.
it must be clearly over the goal line for it to
Right.
count. And it was not.
Well,
Um,
I was saying to my son that one was so close that I'm not sure the puck didn't fully cross the line, but he pulled it out in the same frame of the slow motion video. Like it was like that close that even though sort of what is it, 1/30th of a second or 1/60th of a second, I can't remember which. And in that time, two things can happen. The puck can cross and get pulled out within that same interval. And it was close enough that actually was possible, but there was nothing sort of clearly saying, yep, in. And of course, Oilers didn't get the call. But I think you're right. They got that right. And the kicking motion was more like a stop up motion, and he did sort of flare out his skate to the side. You want to call that kicking motion? It's not like he swept the puck into the net with his skate. But you don't dare call for a video review there, because if you
no,
lose it,
they would
it's
not have done
still
that.
2-1, and Carolina that's just scored on the power play gets another power play,
I don't think they
so
would have won.
the right
Yeah.
call to just bite your lip and carry on. Frustrating,
Yeah.
though. There was like two or
Bruce,
three pileups too. Anderson was down, and they were jamming away, trying to get the puck in, and it just would not cross.
what is your number, Bruce?
Yeah, my number is 25 minutes and 45 seconds. That is ice time tonight for defenseman Brett Kulak, stepping up, taking on significant extra load in the absence of Darnell Nurse, his sometimes partner and the usual second pairing left defenseman. And Kulak filled that role with alacrity tonight. In fact, he did it playing with a couple different partners. This was for him not a career high. He played 27 minutes one night in Montreal when one of their defensemen left the game after 1 minute of ice time. I looked up, how the hell would Kulak at 27? Well, they had four guys that each played like 25 plus, and one really young guy, and then one guy got probably hurt in the beginning of the game, and so his career high he didn't get it, but this was his career high as an Oiler, and all of his prior career highs as an Oiler were this year. Like last year, he never even played 21 minutes in a game, not even once. He played 3 games of 20 minutes, and then all the rest were under. And this series had 2 of 24, 1, 2, 3 of 23, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of 21. Like a lot of games where he's up and over the 20, but never before as an Oiler 25. And he did a lot with that 25 minutes. Like there was a lot going on, not all good. Like according to Natural Stat Trick, he was in double digits on both sides of the high danger chance equation, 11-4, 10 against. But he was in playing the hard minutes in the late going against, against a strong and pushing Carolina team. But he had made a huge play, especially on that second goal, as you pointed out, where after being involved in one chance, he was able to pick off the clearing pass and keep it in play and wheel it over to Draisaitl and let him work his magic with it. Well, he couldn't have worked it if he didn't have the puck, which was all because Brett Kulak made two good plays, one to get the puck and one to get it over to Leon and turn what Carolina thought was a breakout for them into another thrust on their own net, and this one wound up in the desired result with Perry tapping it in. So that was kind of a big moment for him. He had um, just one shot, two block shots, three giveaways. Like there's nothing really on the stat line other than one assist and plus two that suggests that it was anything really out of the ordinary. But he was just all over the ice and involved in a lot of stuff and really noticeable in a good way. So
Yeah, he did. Like there's a couple plays where like just saved a couple goals against it. Looked like so.
yeah, there was one big defensive play in particular. You're right, where it looked like it would
Took a
be.
guy out. Pickard gave up a bad rebound, a juicy
Yeah,
rebound,
yeah.
and there was another one where there was a 5 alarm shot, like a one-timer by Roslovic, I think,
Hmm.
just before then, where yeah. So there was the two in a row. Yeah, Brett, he comes through in the playoffs, does he not?
He's been good in Edmonton in 3 out of 3 years in the playoffs. I
Yeah,
think for what the role he's been given, which has been third pairing. Well, tonight it was anything but third pairing. Third pairing guys don't play 25 minutes. They play under 20 like he did all last year. But tonight he was definitely top four, and he was the best of Edmonton's defense core tonight.
well, here's a number for you. It's not my number, but Arvidsson played 10-11 and Skinner 9:55.
Wow.
Yeesh,
Well, they
kapishka.
started the game on Draisaitl's line, and
Yeah,
before you knew it, Dry was playing with Perry and Podkolzin
yep,
because they were working the boards a lot more effectively than Skinner and Arvidsson had been.
yep.
So,
Skinner just had a rough night on the boards. They're picking up a winger for sure, Bruce, a big tough winger. Um,
probably, eh?
yeah, I think so. Maybe a center. Could be a center. We'll get to the big tough winger talk in a second. My
Yeah.
number, Bruce, is 12. It is the grade A shot total against, which is also the average for the Oilers this year. And during this 11 game skid where they've really been playing poor hockey, they've been letting in 16 grade A shots a game,
Unbelievable.
which is which is 4 over the season average, which amounts to one expected
One
goal,
goal.
1 goal a game.
Yeah.
So tonight, it wasn't a perfect defensive effort, but it was a really strong defensive effort. And um, they've got to buckle down and focus on defense if they're going to turn things around. It'll help their goalies a lot. It's no surprise. Like Pickard didn't stand on his head in this game. There was the shot right at the end, which was an incredible save. But the goalies just look a lot better if the defense looks better. Fancy that. And we've had really weak defense for a long time
Hmm.
now. And I don't know. It's interesting what management's thinking about that, how they're going to solve that. Do they solve it by just thinking the coach and the players are going to solve it? They're going to tighten it up. So we just add what we need kind of with that in mind. Or do they bring in defensive specialists? I think it's pretty apparent that this team needs to get a bit bigger and tougher, and we're going to see maybe a defenseman and a forward in that mold. But moving on to the conundrum, the big decision the Oilers have to make, the first big decision is what to do with Evander Kane. Today was the first day since he signed in Edmonton that they could trade Evander Kane without his approval. He gave a list of 16 teams which he could be traded to in the NHL. And if he chooses those teams if he wants to stay in Edmonton, if he chose those teams wisely, it will be near impossible to move him because he'd just pick teams that are pressed right up against the cap, or have no interest that he would have no interest in acquiring him. And
Reacquiring him would be the
re,
word you're looking for, David. All the teams that he has a past with, none of them want him.
probably, maybe, we don't know that for sure, Bruce, but you know, with
Winnipeg, Buffalo, San Jose, no chance. No
Winnipeg,
chance. Yeah.
Winnipeg,
Yeah, they
I
got
don't
rid
know
of him
about
to
that.
Buffalo. I
Um,
mean, maybe enough time has passed that they would.
it's a long time
If,
ago. And listen, Kane, if he's healthy, Bruce, I mean, if he's healthy and can play like he has played in the playoffs for the Oilers, he can help your team win the
Mhm.
Stanley Cup. So this is why I would prefer. Like, I don't know, I have no idea how Kane has fit in with this group of players, or how he's looked at by management and the coaches. All I go by is what I've seen on the ice. And when he's been healthy, Bruce, he is exactly what the Edmonton Oilers need right now. A big, nasty, aggressive power forward with some skill. That is exactly the player the Edmonton Oilers need. And if he could be that player for the Oilers, that is good. But we have, so there was two interesting reports I'll suggest. First from Jeff Jackson, who was on the 100% Hockey podcast with John Shannon and Darren Millard. And it's funny because there's all this kind of weird talk always circulating around Kane, like it's like the media
Always.
is always completely befuddled about what's going on with him. Jackson went on there and explained it in the clearest terms, just simple terms, like it was always expected he'd be out 6 months. He gets the knee injury, it's extending it. So, he might be back for the playoffs. A player like Evander, though, you never know. It's kind of week to week. Just a very straightforward, simple explanation. And but it did make me think, Bruce, is he can't, if the plan has always been with Kane that he will sit out to the playoffs, if that's been both Kane's plan and the Oilers' plan, kind of no matter what, they could never say that plan. They could never admit that plan in public because it would lead to every other team screaming bloody murder against the Edmonton Oilers for cheating, gaming the system. So Jackson he is a lawyer, and he gave he's very calm. If it could be the truth, what he said,
Well,
or it could be
one
just
of
a
those
complete
options
smoke
definitely going to
screen.
be the truth.
Could be a complete smoke screen that the plan has always been he's going to sit out the regular season, and they're not thinking of moving him. They're just waiting for get back to the playoffs, and they'll bring him back for the playoffs. That could be the plan. The second information, though, tonight was Elliot Freeman stating with a fair amount of certainty that the Edmonton Oilers. Did you hear this? And this is how I heard it. And
During
I'm
second
not
intermission? No, I missed all of it.
okay. I'm not quoting it exactly and I don't want to get it wrong. But the gist I got from it is that the Oilers are shopping Kane to those 16 teams and looking if they can make a deal to move him out, and then use that cap space to bring in a player, which is interesting. Like that may be the case as well. Maybe they just want a different player and they want to use that cap space, the 5.1 million slot for the rest of the season on a different player. There's a suggestion from Frank Saravalli of the Daily Faceoff that to move Kane, you'd have to add a sweetener. I find that could well be, but man, if you could get Evander Kane, if you have the cap space and you want to win in the playoffs and you think he's going to be healthy, you have reason to believe he's healthy. He is a great acquisition to win in the playoffs. And I don't care what anyone says about that. I am convinced about that, Bruce. I've seen Evander Kane. They don't get by Los Angeles and Vancouver last year, I don't believe, without Evander Kane. Now, he was so beaten up after that he didn't help the team. But to me,
had nothing left by the beginning of the finals.
He sure didn't. He was playing on fumes, and usually, that's
that was obvious.
Courageous player, but he just got attacked for weak play at that point. Anyway, how do you see it?
Yeah, well, I remember that game 2 of the finals was his 206 games as an Oiler, including playoffs, and it was the first time that he had a game where he had 0 hits and 0 shots. Yeah. And it was so against his, that's what power forwards do. Those two things. You look in those two columns and you can find the power forwards out of an event summary. Oftentimes, they accumulate. And he always had, if he wasn't getting his shots, he'd go out and pound somebody, right? It was just always plan B, and you have something you had a little more control over. But by that time, he had nothing left. In theory, they don't have to trade him to make his cap space. They just have to, everybody convince one another that he's not ready till April 20th or later. And then they've got that cap space for down the stretch in long-term injury reserve.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that's why trade him? Why trade him would be if they're not really sure that he's not going to pipe up on April 5th that, hey, I'm ready to go. Why am I not playing here already? I'm supposed to be in there. And then you've got problems. And I don't know. I mean, he's such a wild card. There's no telling. Like, my theory is he doesn't know himself what he's going to do until it comes out, and he's a very impulsive guy, and there's lots of positives from that, but I'm not sure they really trust that they're going to get from here to there without something going sideways. And one way to solve
Yeah.
it is to move the guy out, and then you've got the 5 million or however much you don't retain to go and get somebody else. And there's one school of thought that he's worn out his welcome with his teammates, which I can't refute or.
Well, what is the factual basis for that?
He's been kind of around the scenes and not playing games, so nothing visible. But
I mean, there was the fight
he
with
has a
Corey Perry on
long
the bench,
he
but
has a long
that's the
history of
only
that
thing.
in other teams, and anyway, so people make stuff up, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah, they do.
so it could be what I'm hearing is 100% made up stuff. Of somebody saying I've heard Kane's having problems.
I don't
So
believe anything
I
like
don't
that
have
at
any
all. Yeah.
real inside pipeline, but I do know that it'd be just Edmonton's luck to try and play the Vegas and Tampa long game and have something go sideways and lose a couple of draft picks because of it,
You
including the
know, Bruce,
obligatory third rounder to Calgary.
here's the thing. The Oilers had two power forwards last year, Dylan Holloway and Evander Kane.
Mhm.
They already let one of them, they already bungled it enough to let one of them slip through their fingers. I will not be happy if that happens with Kane. But
Well, depending on who they
you make a good
get
argument. Like
with the
I
trade.
think Kane is his own man. I don't think he's
Yes.
impulsive, but he is his own man. I will
Yeah.
definitely say that. He might say something. So I will, like the people who I think you made a good point there, Bruce. That's not
Okay.
that's not crazy talk. There's a lot of crazy talk around Kane. That isn't that. He is his own
Yeah.
man, and can the Oilers completely trust him? Not just to blurt out, well, no, I've been ready to play since February 15th, and here I am sitting around. Like if he got mad or something, like
Well,
if he had a
you
reason for
remember
doing it,
all that
I don't know.
nonsense at the beginning of the season. Like he was going to start the season at one point, according to him. And here it is March, and he still
Well,
hasn't
that's
played a
a
game. And
you can see
that
because
was before
he
the surgery. Like he wants to
yeah
play. Like,
he
and I don't
yeah
hold that
he
against him at
does.
all.
Neither do I.
Good. I want guys who want to play.
He wanted to play in the playoffs when he was hurt. And then he started to take like there's a group of people who don't like him, and it's like, oh, he's not playing well. Yeah, he's playing his heart out on with terrible injuries and suffering immensely to try to win the Stanley Cup for the Edmonton Oilers, your team, and all you can do is complain about it. Like I
Got
just
two
like
hernias and two adductor
yeah,
tears and
come
two
on, give the
whatever
guy
the
a
third set of
break.
surgeries was, and
Yeah,
still trying.
whatever there's two of it, they were hurting on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right.
Anyway, he's got the heart of a lion. I'll say that.
Oh
And
God,
he was, when he's in there and he's right. Like when he first got here in 2022, he was a goal scoring machine. He was a holy terror in the playoffs. He like totally intimidated Matthew Tkachuk in the Calgary
yeah.
series. And it was, in the end, he crossed the line and he boarded Kadri and he got suspended for the last game, remember? And that was
Yeah.
how that unfortunately ended. And Dylan
Wow.
Holloway, the
Yeah.
other guy you mentioned, was his replacement, came in the last game and played 4 minutes or something. And he was not Evander Kane at that moment in time.
Bruce, let's leave it there. What's the next game?
Tuesday night, and it is almost certain it's against Anaheim, but let me get the actual schedule here.
Oh, I think you can
Later.
leave it at that. Don't worry about it.
They play Anaheim, Montreal, Dallas, 3-game homestand on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then they're off to Buffalo in the beginning of another East Coast road trip the following week. But they do get like an actual full week at home with 2 days off between tonight and the next game, which is the first time that's happened for a while, other than that long break. They haven't had a sort of a 2-day break between games since a month ago.
Yeah. All right, Bruce, let's leave it there. Thank you for talking tonight.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.